So over the weekend, we had a spiritual gathering that I had put together. Several women getting together to pray, worship, be in the Word, and to just allow God to do what He does, right? And something that was pretty evident is how many people struggle with fear, right? Or how many people are being dominated by fear. And something, that came up during our conversation is the need to really come out of agreement with the spirit of fear. Because we need to understand this, right? Fear is a beast. Fear is a beast. Fear is a beast that if you give it even just a little bit, it's going to find a way to try to take control over your life. It's going to find a way to literally dictate and tell you what you can do or can't do, right? It's going to literally take over. And when you bow down to fear, if God tells you something that He wants you to do, or put something in your heart for you to do, right? And you don't do that thing because of fear, you're literally bowing down to fear, right? Fear is saying, no, don't do that. And you're like, okay, master. That's essentially what you're doing. God puts something on your heart for you to do. You don't want to do it because you're fearful. And fear starts to creep up every time you try to think about it. Every time you start to want to take steps, and you start to think about what if I fail? What if this? What if that? And then you end up backing out and you don't do that thing, and you're disobedient to God. If fear has that much power that it can cause you to disobey God, or it can cause you to not do something that you truly want to do, or to do something that you truly don't want to do, fear has become your master. Fear has become your master. You are now bowing down to fear. Anytime you bow down to something, you are worshiping that thing. Bowing down is a sign of worship. Bowing down is a sign of surrender. It's a sign of submission. Right? So anytime you bow down to fear, you're coming into agreement with fear and saying, fear, you are my master. I am your servant. I am serving you. And we know that Jesus told us what? That you can't serve two masters. Either you hate one, either you love one or hate the other. Right? You will serve one and not serve the other. Right? You can't serve two masters. And so when you allow fear to become your master, now you're saying, Jesus, you're not my master. Fear is my master. What a scary place to be in. What a dangerous place to be in. To have fear take over as being your master and not Christ, right? And I know we don't necessarily want to think about it that way because we're not intentionally making that decision. But I want you to understand that even though you're not intentionally making that decision, that is what essentially is happening spiritually. You're bowing down to this spirit, because remember, God said that He did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So God did not give us a spirit of fear. So if He did not give us a spirit of fear, who is giving us the spirit of fear? Well, we know where that's coming from. It's the enemy, right? Trying to stop you from being obedient, trying to stop you, trying to kill your faith, right? Trying to interfere with your destiny, with what you're called to do. And so God did not give us a spirit of fear. And so if He did not give us a spirit of fear, we have to do everything in our power not to bow down to that, because that is not of God. Because when we allow fear to dictate our every steps, we are bowing down to it. We are worshiping it. We are calling it our master. And when we make it our master, it is replacing who our master should actually be. So if you have been wrestling with fear, which is probably most people, when God calls you to do something, fear automatically wants to kind of take over and all these things want to come up, right? But we have to be able to overcome that, and we have to do whatever we need to do, even in the face of fear, right? So yes, you may be fearful about certain things, about, what the outcome may be, about, whether or not it's going to fail, or am I going to look stupid, or am I the right person, whatever it may be, right? It's going to come up, but do it despite the fear. Do it despite the fear. Now, the best thing is going to be to deal with that fear, to command that thing out and to come out of agreement with fear, to overcome that. But if you're still wrestling with that, still do your very best to do that thing anyway, because what we are not going to do is bow down to fear. What we are not going to do is worship fear and allow that to cause us to disobey God and to not do something that God told us to do. We're not going to do that. And if we've been doing that, we're going to repent. We're going to pray. We're going to ask God to forgive us for bowing down to fear. We're going to repent. And then we're going to come out of agreement with fear. And we're going to take the very steps that fear is trying to stop us from doing. Okay? I want us to understand it that way, because when we understand it that way, we see how dangerous of a thing it actually is. And we see how it's not anything that we want to play around with. Okay? And so if fear has been stopping you and God has been calling you in a certain direction and fear has been stopping you, it's time. It's time to put on your armor. It's time to fight against fear.